Welcome back. Well, how do you get your kids to learn manners and proper etiquette? Well, our own Paulina had a chance to talk to Anna Martinez-Minter. She's the author of Mabel Sets the Table. Let's join their conversation.
Well, please join me today for our conversation with Anna Minter. Miss Annie, also known as Miss Annie, Southern Oregon's children's etiquette advocate and author of a new book, Mabel, right?
Yes.
Mabel Sets the Table. Beautiful book. We'll talk about it in a second. But first, I want to welcome you, Anna, to the studio. Thanks for being here. And you're the first guest who's brought us flowers.
Oh.
Maybe not us, but for me, for sure. You're the first guest that I got flowers for. So that's why I'm having on the table. This is not a giveaway, so don't call for these flowers. They're mine. But thank you so much. Is this just, I mean, you obviously have manners. You come with flowers. Thank you.
Thanks. It occurred to me that you were taking the time to interview me, and I just wanted to tell you thank you.
Well, it's a joy to have you, and I think you're doing a great job. You've had this company, I was trying to figure out what it is, entity, for a while, and I want you to tell us, before we get into the book, Gracious Me.
Okay.
What is it about? What do you do there?
Well, Gracious Me stemmed from me years of doing children's entertainment. For 30 years, I've been known as Miss Annie, doing puppet shows and face painting and animal balloons. We do pony rides and jump houses, and while that's all fun and wonderful, I realized I had a captive audience. And in the same vein, I'd been teaching for 20 years, 20 plus years now as a kindergarten teacher, and what I was noticing across the socioeconomic stratus, families from Malibu to South Central Los Angeles to Southern Oregon. It didn't matter if these children were coming from homes of means or from really oppressed environments. What I was noticing is that the children who were presenting themselves well were more widely or easily accepted or easy to be around. So I thought, while I have this captive audience, why not teach a lesson? So Gracious Me came out of that.
And what do? You have sessions? You have parties?
Both. I was calling it Manners School, and my phone wasn't ringing. And so I decided to call it Princess School, and my phone did not stop ringing. So we set the stage with teacups and dress up, and of course I add my face painting, and I'll do the puppets. So all of that is to get those little bit of nuggets in for the children to get some basic manners and an environment that would encourage that.
Is that for little girls only?
It started with just the little girls, and I actually have a session coming up for a homeschooling group that is middle school, high school. It is going across the board. And parents, you know, for as much as we've all been grumbling about manners and lack of and how fast we're all going, I just put myself on a mission to do something about it.
So boys or not? No boys?
Yes, boys
okay.
as well.
So they'll be there. Okay, because I was wondering, if you have a princess, you got to have a prince.
Yes.
So somebody got to train those too.
Yes. In fact, the next book, Mabel Sets the Table, this is the first in a series of 7. I know we're going to jump into this, but the next book is Josh Gets a Wash, and it's personal hygiene and personal space. And so each book will have their own character.
So is that something else you're talking about, not just setting the table? Because that's, you know, when you think of manners, you think of thank you and please, and then the forks. And you know, basic things, but you also talk about personal hygiene. What else?
Greetings, introductions, presenting yourself well, eye contact, and so it's things that we just think are going to be caught with our children and not taught. And there's a big part to that. If whatever we're modeling, our children are watching. But as we're going faster and faster and faster, it's nice to just take the time out and offer those lessons. So I've read in some of the materials you gave me that 70% of parents say that the kids nowadays don't have the manners that the kids used to have. And if you think about it, parents said that generations ago. So what do you say to that? Is that true? Do kids not have manners, or the kids have different kinds of manners? You know, well, that's what I'm trying to set out to work for, is to have actually an advocate, somebody who's saying this is still important. We threw the baby out with the bathwater with a lot of things because it was done so rigid. I went to a very rigid Catholic school, and I had a great-grandmother who insisted on it, and it became so labor-intensive that the joy was lost. So when I do the classes, and there's you know, if you have your if you can't get to the classes and you have your Sunday dinner and Grandma and Grandpa are coming over and you're displaying these manners and you're practicing. So it's just taking the time to practice these things. So it's just reinforcing.
So dinners are important.
Very important.
Even if they're not normal, should the families, would that be one of your advice then? If the family is not used to having dinners, should they start having them just for the sake of their kids being well-mannered?
Yes, absolutely. Just setting the stage. And that's what the classes provide. And so you don't necessarily need to come to my particular class, but having the resources available to you. There's websites, there's creative ideas, but just putting some attention to it is so vital.
Is it ever too late to teach the manners?
It's never too late. It's never too late to teach manners. And in fact, I've had requests for adults. There is a whole history on manners. It's so fascinating. And the parents who come sometimes will come 20 minutes early because we do a grand fashion show and the little girls have to graduate and have this part of the session. And the moms often are saying, we'd really like to have something for us. So there's a history of manners that's fascinating. And it was the gentlemen in the castles and the chivalry where it all stems from and how we've brought it forward. It's just we women really like to keep it enforced in the homes.
All right, so well, here's an example. Let's look at the situation. A single mom is raising a child, the only child, and the girl grows up getting attention from grandparents when she sees them, but otherwise she is the only child. She thinks that she's entitled to everything. And then at one point, mom realizes that, you know, she has no manners. And the girl is, say, 5 years old by then. What's the right place to start?
She's how old?
5.
She's
4 or
5
5,
years old, 4 or 5 years old. It's just the simple steps. There are many articles that'll tell you what to expect from your child for this age, for this age, for this age. And the expectations, I would follow them. It was very interesting. We raised our boys and we're hands-on parents, and then later in life we have our little girl, and having had boys was a whole different scenario, and here it was 21 years later having the little girl. So I did follow those guidelines, and it was very helpful for me in raising this little girl to make sure she didn't have this sense of entitlement as an only child.
Okay, so your advice would be to look up those expectations for each age.
Yes.
To see what you can or shouldn't expect from them at that point.
And keep it at the highest standard, but really keeping it to where it's I like to use the word fun, but just so you want to have the child engaged. You really want to have the child engaged, and you can sit and lecture, but we also have to model. We have to model that, and we have to have the child experience. I have little Velcro sets where they set the table from the very youngest, from 3 to 5 year olds. I show them what it should look like, pull off all the pieces, and then have them Velcro back. And anyone can make that. I made that at home for my daughter when she was little, and she would love to go and show people that she could do that.
Make a game out of it. All right. Well, let's get into your book, Mabel Sets the Table. Tell us, brief without giving the ending away. What is it about?
Well, this is pretty much like you say. Mom is very busy. Mabel's very excited. Grandma and Grandpa are coming over for dinner. It's a Sunday night dinner, and with all that excitement, she offers to volunteer to help, and so Mom says, great, you can set the table, and gets busy doing her thing. So Mabel thinks of everything else to do but setting the table, only to come to find out that she had forgotten. So here's the opportunity for Mom to sit down, pull the great big, which I'm almost finished writing with my co-editor, Constance Franklin. We're writing the Great Big Book of Manners, and that will be a guidebook to take the lessons further. So beyond this book, if they pull that book, everything that has to do with table settings will refer to Mabel, and you can go more in depth with it. And so Mom pulls this book out, and they sit down and they figure out how to set the table. So
I think that would be a great example for moms who are trying to teach. So let me mention again the name. Mabel Sets the Table, and that's by Miss Annie or Anna Minter. You have several names listed here, so I'm good. No, that's good. Okay, so with manners, there's so much I wanted to cover. You have a special project going on with Focus on the Family.
Yes.
Can you tell it?
It's very
talk about
exciting.
it, or is it still a secret?
No, it's very exciting. In this process, I had picked up the book, Raising a Modern Day Princess, and read it from cover to cover. I was so grateful to have had the opportunity to read the book, so I had this urging. I'd never felt so strongly about picking up the phone and calling an author. I'd never done it before, haven't done it since. Picked it up, and Doreen Hanna happened to answer her phone, and I just started speaking as fast as I could because I was very nervous, and I said, God put it on my heart to call you. I believe I have the precursor curriculum to your program. And as a result of that phone call, a relationship has begun, and her Raising a Modern Day Princess program starts with the teenage girl, and is a wonderful program, and really people should look into that. And so I am doing the children's version of that, and it's been a wonderful relationship. And I've just recently been asked to join their team to visit South Africa, Johannesburg, and I'm very excited about the prospects, and we're all praying about that to see if that happens.
That would be wonderful, South Africa. So you have that coming up, that project. Then you have the Big Book of Manners. When is that? Do you have the date for that?
That should be first of the year,
Okay.
2015.
So first of the year. Then you have this book, Mabel Sets the Table, and that's already out? Is that the pre?
This is available on Amazon.
Okay.
It debuted in June, and then this fall, Josh Gets a Wash.
Okay, Josh Gets a Wash. And then your sessions, how can people schedule one, or maybe they want to have a manners party at their house? Is that an option? Okay.
There is. I have my email, and it's Anna@graciousme.net.
Okay, Anna@graciousme.net. Is that the best way to
For
contact
now,
you?
I am working on a different way, but for now, that's the best way.
Okay, so for those parents who are at home and trying to take care of it on their own, give us a few hints, examples. I know some of them you already mentioned. You lead by example.
Exactly.
You know, you have to keep your house well mannered 24/7. What are some other things that parents can start implementing?
Sitting around the dinner table and talking about blessings and thorns was a really good way to help children express gratitude so they can realize their blessings, because we all know we can come to the table with especially in this stressful day and age, to have every thorn at the table. And so if we talk about our blessings, it helps us with gracious behavior. And really it's the essence of manners that we're really trying to create. It's not, which is the right fork, or it's really a thought process. So having those discussions and talking about those thorns with a bit of compassion and some understanding helps a child get to that gracious point. And sometimes it has to be aired before it can be expressed as gratitude.
All right. Well, thank you. If you want more information, do contact Anna. It's beautiful. The book is wonderful. Mabel Sets the Table, and Josh Gets a Wash is coming up, and Anna@graciousme.net is the best contact information. Thank you, Anna, and thank you for the flowers. They're beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's never too early, never too late to teach kids proper etiquette.